The following episode of the Maui Chamber of Commerce's Business Matters was originally broadcast on August 1st, 2023.
It's time now for the Business Matters radio show sponsored by Mokulele Airlines. Now here's your host, Pam Toompop. Good morning, Pam.
Hey, good morning, Gary. How is it in Wailuku?
It is beautiful as always.
Well, it was glorious up here in Pukalani. We just want to welcome everybody to Business Matters Radio Show. Thank Gary for all you do to produce the show and get it out there on air. And just let everybody know it's another day in paradise, but it's also a day where, of course, our hearts are going out to all of those devastated by the fires. Of course, the tremendous effort of recovery and mourning the lives lost, as well as people starting to say, okay, we've got to keep moving forward. We've got more attention from the federal government with the president out yesterday, and looking at, again, how we can start getting people back to some normalcy and thinking about rebuilding our town. There's a lot of discussions now about people starting to think about some of those amazing things. But we're not really fully there yet because, again, the numbers are going up with the losses, and many businesses are still waiting to get back in and see where their business is at. But the community has come out in full force with everybody trying to not only do their part, but help out where there are pukas in the system and see how we can keep everything moving forward and make this as smooth as possible to recover as quickly as possible, knowing it's going to be decades and billions of dollars. But we're also seeing tremendous outpouring of people from across the globe wanting to help, sending money. We're seeing local concerts that are trying to fundraise for efforts here. And, our nonprofit community united in both serving and fundraising as well. And businesses, a tremendous outpouring by businesses. And in some cases, we've had to tell businesses, hang tight. There's so many donations right now. Let us organize things a little bit, but there'll be no shortage of need. And ask them to jump in a little further down the line when others have sort of put their money in and exhausted their budgets. So it's a coordinated effort, and we just want to thank all involved, including our amazing firefighters, first responders, police department, all of the county personnel who are working so hard on this, our mayor, our governor, our Congress leaders, our state leaders, throughout all of this, it's been a patchwork, a quilt kind of coming together, if you will, but everybody doing what we can to provide that comforting support. So want to thank everybody, and I also want to thank Jennings Imel. He's going to be our first speaker today. Jennings is the Vice President, the Western Region Government Affairs Division of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. If you're familiar with the show, you know Jennings comes on regularly and gives us updates. And, his office is responsible for legislative and political grassroots activities in Arizona, California, Hawaii, Nevada, and Utah in support of the Chamber's national policy goals. But Jennings also is, in that role, very connected to all of the chambers here, of course, in the state of Hawaii, and has been somebody who has always jumped in to come out and help. And recently, the U.S. Chamber did it was about an hour-long presentation on what's happening right here in Maui and the devastation by the fires, and I had a chance to participate. But we got to meet with Fortune 500 companies. So I want to thank Jennings for being on the show. Aloha, Jennings. How are you this morning?
Aloha, Pam. Good to be with you. I'm doing well. Thanks for having me, as always. And, of course, our thoughts and prayers are with you all and the residents on Maui.
Thank you so much. I know you've been so supportive throughout this, reaching out to us. And thank you so much for the opportunity with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. Can you tell everybody a little bit about how that came about to support our island?
Yeah, absolutely. Happy to. So at the U.S. Chamber, we have a foundation that works on a lot of different issues, but one of kind of growing importance over the last several years has been resilience and disaster response. So we have folks that work at the U.S. Chamber Foundation that focus specifically on those kinds of issues, on kind of how to activate the business community and our members to respond to natural disasters that are impacting business communities and chambers in various parts of the country whenever they come up. And obviously, after seeing what happened on Maui, our kind of foundation jumped right into action. We started hearing immediately from our member companies, especially folks that are in the Fortune 500, that wanted to help. They were eager to find out what they could do to help businesses and residents that were suffering on Maui. And so then what we ended up doing immediately after that was kind of thinking about kind of the best way that we can go about getting them the information that they need, the on-the-ground assessment of what's going on Maui, and the information on kind of how they could be most effective in offering help. So, of course, we've got great connections with you, Pam, the Maui Chamber, same thing with Sherry Minoru-McNamara at the Chamber of Commerce Hawai'i. Reached out to both of you to kind of put this call together, to give that assessment of what's going on the ground, what businesses are going to need. We were able to use those connections as well to get some other folks on that call that were extremely helpful. Think of, Director Tokioka from the governor's office, CEO of the Council for Native Hawaiian Advancement. Both of them were on the call. We also have our own contacts in D.C. That we were able to kind of utilize, thinking about Deputy Administrator Eric Hooks from FEMA. He's the number 2 at FEMA, also Vice President from the American Red Cross. So we had a really good lineup, and of course we had you and Sherry talk about kind of the chamber perspective, what you're hearing from businesses on the ground and how they've been suffering, what they need, what their employees need, all that sort of thing. And that was just a really good way to kind of get all of those folks, those resources together on one call, and to provide the information that was needed to the businesses that are out there, whether it's Fortune 500, whether it's even chambers of commerce that want to help and want to do what they can to help people that are kind of suffering through, really unfathomable tragedy. So, we're very grateful for you, Pam, to the fact that you participated and provided tremendous insights into what's going on Maui. The call that we had last week ended up having over 300 organizations on the call. We had dozens of Fortune 500 companies. We had dozens of chambers of commerce from around the country as well. Many of them I know donated. Chambers from places like Kentucky and Florida and Arizona. I mean, literally all over the country. And as you know, Pam, chambers oftentimes don't have a whole lot of money. I mean, these are nonprofit organizations, but they're doing everything that they can to help you all as well. And then, of course, Fortune 500 companies. We have so many different examples of companies that have stepped up to the plate. Think of, the airlines and everything, all the good work that they've done, bringing in materials and commodities, United, Alaska, Hawaiian Airlines, Southwest, Bank of Hawaii, Apple, Amazon, FedEx, Lockheed Martin, Maui Gold Pineapple. I mean, you think of all of these companies that have stepped up either by providing direct donations or providing materials and goods. It's really been something to see, and, we're obviously happy to see it. It's a tragedy that it has to happen, but at the same time, it's nice to be able to highlight, how proactive, the private sector has been and private companies have been in responding to this crisis. So in that call, we really kind of tried to emphasize the need for cash donations. Of course, the Maui Chamber has a fund that we highlighted. The Hawaii Chamber has a fund that we highlighted as well. There are a number of other organizations that we have listed on our website. If you go to uschamber.com or U.S. Chamber Foundation, if you just Google that, you can find more information as to kind of all of the various organizations that are working to make a difference on Maui. So we think that the call was tremendously successful. Happy to do it, and thanks again, Pam, for your participation. We think that really makes a difference, and we're going to continue to work on this. This is not just a one-time deal. We're going to continue to work with you all in the business community in Maui and continue to find ways that we can activate member companies from around the country, and especially larger companies, to donate and really kind of provide as much assistance as possible in getting businesses and people back on their feet.
Well, we were very honored and of course, happy to participate. And we shared some pictures so that people could understand on the call, what we went from in Lahaina town, showcasing our beautiful banyan tree, which so many people are referring to, of course, these days as a symbol of our resiliency, with the banyan tree still standing, and many now believing it will thrive again. On to, pictures of the town and some data and examples of, where we were at that point in time in terms of number of buildings that have been devastated or damaged to different degrees, a sense of how many businesses we had out there and the need that's coming up and the kind of income they generated for our community. And we're very grateful. We've gotten a lot of offers for tremendous assistance. One of the things we also shared, and the U.S. Chamber looks at this, and it's really critically important to our community on the issue of resiliency, is that, unfortunately, fires are not new to upcountry Maui as well as Lahaina town. And, we've sort of had the perfect storm, if you will, with this hurricane, no water, tremendous winds, and then very extreme heat conditions, which we're going to continue to see because a lot of areas that used to be planted in sugarcane and were drew more humidity and kept us more green, that amount of acreage is not planted in the same way it had been decades ago. So this is a challenge that we need to look at, and one of the things that the Maui Chamber is helping to do is fundraise for the West Maui Taxpayers Association and continue to take donations for their Oluwalu Fire Station and to encourage donations for their Oluwalu Fire Station. And for those who know, that is because Joe Pluta and of the West Maui Taxpayers Association and Rick Nava, who's been on the board, and these two who have championed this West Maui fire station for quite some time, both lost their homes in the fire and both barely got out with their lives. So it's a time where we all come together, and you can contribute to that at MauiChamber.com, or you can contribute to that at the West Maui Taxpayers Association website as well. But we really need to get additional fire stations, and now we're looking at a comprehensive fire station plan and going to be talking to the county about how we get more needed fire protection resources in the immediate areas so that these battles can be fought differently moving forward, because we're always going to be in a hurricane zone, and we are not immune from getting significant wildfires, especially considering the conditions now of our land here in the island. So, as we've been moving through this, Jennings, the big thing that keeps coming up, and of course, as we demonstrated in that presentation, is the kind of income that comes in from West Maui. We're very reliant on our visitor industry, and we are the most reliant island in the island chain on the visitor industry. And West Maui was a huge economic impact. In fact, hence that's why the West Maui Taxpayers Association was formed, recognizing the role, the economic role that West Maui played, and was there to also ensure the government well understood that economic impact, but also the kinds of services that West Maui needed out there. So can you kind of share with our audience a little bit, again, the importance of keeping our economy strong and having visitors continue to travel to areas of our island that are not impacted, to continue to sustain our island as we look to rebuild?
Yep, absolutely. That's going to be key. And, I'm glad that you brought that up. I know that you brought that up during the call last week as well. And I think that's going to have to be a message that gets emphasized and highlighted over and over again for a national audience to understand the fact that, Maui is still open. I mean, there are still other parts of the island that are open, that are great to visit, beautiful places to visit. Obviously, we want visitors to be respectful and to avoid lahaina, and obviously just be respectful visitors in general. There are a lot of people, obviously, that are grieving during these difficult times. But at the same time, there are beautiful places, Wailea and Kihei and Hana, that are still open and where tourism is needed. It's desperately needed. And as you said, Maui is the most dependent of all the islands on tourism. I think something like 70% of Maui's economy is tourism-based. I think if people avoid going to Maui, if that's the kind of mindset that creeps in, that's just going to make recovery so much more difficult. I mean, people are already going through such a tough time, losing their homes, having loved ones and family members that lost their homes, lost their lives, and to take away their income, to take away their livelihood, the dignity that comes with work on top of that. That's just unconscionable. I mean, we can't have that, the devastation that would have, devastating toll that would have on local residents there and businesses there would be just really devastating. It would be terrible. And you think about kind of the mental health aspect of that as well. Obviously, dealing with trauma like this, there's a mental health component and how challenging that is and getting over. And if you take away a job and livelihood on top of that, it just makes it that much more difficult. So, I think that's something that people need to kind of keep in mind. And I think that's something that, the Maui Chamber and the business community, and we at the U.S. Chamber, right, we can continue to talk about the fact that the visitor industry is still open in Maui. We just need folks to be respectful. But it's going to be important to kind of maintain the economy there to make sure that people don't lose their livelihoods, don't lose their jobs, and continue to put food on the table because it's so important to sustain that. And I think just kind of anecdotally, in kind of conversations that I've had with folks that have been thinking about going to Maui and things like that, I mean, I'm hearing folks that are now reluctant to go, that are saying that they want to cancel, even if they're planning to go in October or November. And that's the wrong kind of mindset to have. And you're seeing businesses that have already suffered, not just the hotel industry, but restaurants, retailers, other kind of industries that cater to tourism on the island. You look at, I think I saw the other day that hotels in Wailea have seen, in the month of August, cancellation rates of up to 95%. I mean, that sort of thing is just devastating, right? And at the same time, though, I understand that there are concerns, housing concerns for folks that have been impacted, that have lost their homes. Where do they go? I think that's got to be priority number one, right? That those folks are taken care of. And we've been really encouraged to see hotels stepping up to the plate, offering their rooms. Airbnb has been working with the state of Hawaii to make rental units available. I think something like 1,500 rental units available in Maui. So that sort of thing has been really encouraging and great to see. And I think that we can strike the right balance, right, to make sure that we're helping the folks that have been impacted find places, temporary places to live, and then also making sure that we're still welcoming visitors and welcoming responsible tourism and tourists that are going to be respectful of what has happened, obviously, on the island.
Yeah. We really appreciate that message. And as you said, there are so many places that are open. We have seen a landslide of cancellations, and a lot of it is there's messaging still going out that we're working to correct. There have been messages that started, in well-intentioned to try and meant to say, please understand what's going on in Lahaina, and if you were going to stay on the west side, please reconsider at this time, because it's not the visitor experience that you would expect to have out there. And also wanting, again, to be very respectful of what our people are going through. And as you point out, thank you, Jennings, our whole community is going through this right now. And we are clearly getting to the point, it was said early on, but we are now getting to that point when they said, as we continue to find more and go through the recovery and find more bodies, everybody is going to know somebody. Everybody is going to be impacted. And as that work continues, we're all finding that to be true. Not everybody knows somebody yet, but a huge part of our community is mourning a loss, and many, of course, are mourning multiple losses. So it's a challenging time, but we want people to know that there are so many other beautiful parts of our island where visitors can come and make a difference right now. They can help shore up our economy when they can't stay in Lahaina, they can explore new areas. They can visit the south side of the island. They can enjoy beautiful beaches. They can visit upcountry farm tours, visit our restaurants and retail shops, and continue to have experiences that they've enjoyed before, but in a different way, maybe. A lot of our visitors would shop in Lahaina. Of course, it was a cherished spot, and dined in Lahaina, and stroll Front Street. It was also a great place for community activities, and it will be again. But for now, one of the ways people really can help shore up our community is to still come and to contribute. And you can contribute at MauiChamber.com. We're focused on helping businesses rebuild and getting businesses pivoted and helping to sustain their operations right now, as devastated as things are. And then we're committed to helping to get fire stations in place. So as we bring back our towns, we are protecting them and making sure that we are far more resilient moving forward than we've been for decades in the past. Which takes me, Jennings, to tools for helping the businesses recover. I know the U.S. Chamber has been on the front lines with tragedies across the nation for probably over 100 years, but helping to look at tools and things that are available to help businesses move forward.
Yeah, absolutely. This is something, as you said, Pam, and as I mentioned earlier on the call, that we've been working on at the U.S. Chamber Foundation for a long time, providing those kind of resources for businesses and for communities to prepare for disasters, then also to respond, if their business has been impacted directly. I know that we have, obviously, our foundation website has all kinds of tools and resources available there. Of course, we're also very much busy kind of directing businesses, as to kind of how they can provide support, financial support, supplies, and things like that. That's going to be obviously helpful. We do have a kind of a help desk that we've set up in response to this as well, and we're encouraging businesses that have been impacted, that have any questions on kind of what the best next steps are as to how they can get their business off the ground and provide for their employees, because that's always kind of the number one thing, right? Or one of the top things that businesses think about in the immediate aftermath is kind of, what does this mean for their employees? How do they make their employees whole? And that just kind of goes to shows, I think, how much employers and businesses care about the folks that they're employing and their livelihoods. But the help desk number that we have is 1-888-MY-BIZ-HELP, so that's 1-888-692-4943, and we're encouraging businesses that have been impacted to dial that number, and we've got some great experts on the other line that can provide some advice on kind of next steps moving forward. The SBA obviously has some really great resources. We always encourage folks to look into the Small Business Administration. You can go on their website as well. I think it's a disaster recovery website, or if you just Google SBA disaster recovery, they've got some really good resources for businesses that need loans during this time, whether that's physical damage loans or whether that's economic injury disaster loans, the EIDL loans. Those are available. I know that the SBA has a business recovery center that they've set up as well down in Kihei. And I think that you're going to be talking about that later, Pam, but encourage folks to check that out. I think the first deadline for the physical damage loans is October 10th of this year, and for the economic injury disaster loans, I think businesses have a little bit more time through May to apply for that. So the SBA always has really good resources on this sort of thing. Foundation, of course, the U.S. Chamber. E-commerce is going to be critically important for businesses that can still provide kind of services and goods through online portals. I think making sure that we're keeping up e-commerce and patronizing those businesses in that way is going to be critically important. And then lastly, as we kind of already talked about, the fact that we need to continue to spread the word that the rest of Maui is open, that we're going to need tourists to continue to come and be respectful on Maui, but to enjoy all of the beauty and great things that Maui has to offer. That's really going to be the best way that we make sure that the island is in the best position to recover and that businesses can stay afloat and that families can continue to be provided for.
Well, we really appreciate that, and we so appreciate the work of the U.S. Chamber of Commerce Foundation in helping with recovery. We have so many resources for you folks on the Chamber website. You can go to MauiChamber.com. There is a listing of U.S. Chamber resources to help, SBA resources to help, a plethora of nonprofits and county agencies that are available to help, and we're here to help. And one of the things that we can do and have been doing throughout this time is when the phone lines are full, when people can't seem to get through, we're helping them connect with the resources they need. There's been just, of course, an outpouring of calls and requests for services in different ways. So please consider us a resource. We're reaching out to businesses who can help. We're finding things, for example, where people want to make donations, but they need a refrigerator truck, and we can help them connect with a business who can take a refrigerator truck in. We're trying to coordinate with the county to help businesses get back in to see their business and recover. We're trying to help people basically who've got large donations and are trying to deploy those. So there's a lot of things going on right now. Sometimes it's hard to get a hold of the county agencies that are on the front lines doing a lot of this work. But if you're stuck, please call MauiChamber.com. You can go to MauiChamber.com for resources, but call Amber Koutsos. She is what we call our Chief Chamber Angel. Her number is 808-269-0141, 808-269-0141, and we can help you reach out to different resources. And, of course, all of the major organizations that are taking donations, Maui United Way, Red Cross, Salvation Army, and others, we've got listings so people can give where they'd like to give, and really encouraging this time to come together. There's so many people who have ways to give, and we're trying to get an updated list, things that were needed very early on. I was talking to Hawaii Community Foundation the other day, and there had been, of course, just as we were putting people in shelters, huge needs for mattresses and pillows and blankets and towels. But the needs keep changing every day because now we're housing people in hotels. So, you're going to see those kinds of needs go down and other needs come up. So we're trying to get lists posted in a way that people can be more familiar with the list and see how the lists are changing from time to time. Because there are some things that are coming in that at this point are not currently needed, and it doesn't mean they won't be, but we also want to try and work with people on the timing of their donations so that we're not taking people away from serving by having to figure out where they're going to warehouse and store some of these items. So we're here to help and answer questions. We've even been doing, talking. People are just being an ear. Some people right now are just needing somebody that they can vent with, and we can help you get to resources that can help you, walk you through some things. And for businesses, we're here to walk everybody through solutions. And we have resources. We have resources to help you expand your website, build a website, think about marketing and communications a different way, work on contingency plans. We have teams standing by to help out as businesses are ready to recover and move forward. But we understand many are still getting their lives back together, addressing insurance claims with the insurance companies, that there are carriers there. We're hearing some things where people are feeling like a push to sign documentation with insurance companies, with the thought being, or concern being that they're asking them to sign a waiver, and feeling like people might be trying to settle for very low amounts. So I want you to know, and I know a lot of people don't have that insurance policy in hand right away. Might have been in some of those documents that burn with the fire. Ask the insurance company to provide you with a copy. And some of the concerns that are coming out, and I know it's a lot to be explained right now, is that they're trying to get you money in advance to sustain you for now. So talk to your insurance carriers. We've had some concerns and people thinking that they're, again, maybe trying to take their house or settle for a very low amount. Have them explain it to you. If you have any concerns, then call the Maui Chamber of Commerce. If you feel that somebody is trying to take your land and you're not clear what the system is or how they're trying to help you, and I'm not saying that there aren't some things going on that are a little unusual. We have some people trying to make donations of stuff that they want to take a write-off on that isn't needed or doesn't have the kind of value they're purporting it does. But in the insurance arena and with FEMA, they are here to help you. But if you have concerns and want to know if this is a valid business or this is a valid business practice, please feel free to reach out to us at the Chamber office, 244-0081, and we can get back to you on that. Jennings, thank you so much for all you do at the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and thank you for all of your help. If there's a way down the road we can do another update, that would be awesome, because, as you point out, we are going to see a world of hurt to our economy in a very short time now with cancellations and changing situations. And there are different options for temporary homes, but temporary homes to house people for a couple of years until homes can be rebuilt and systems can be brought back up. So anything you can do to help us continue to get that word out to those larger companies who really want to be of great assistance, we're ready and willing anytime we can.
Great. Thanks, Pam. We're absolutely going to continue to stay engaged on this. The U.S. Chamber, the private sector in general, business community around the country is going to continue to follow this, continue to stay engaged, and be a resource and as helpful as we can possibly be. So you can count on us to continue to do that and continue to partner with you all at the Maui Chamber. And to your point on the donation issue, I think you make a good one. And that's why, cash donations, money is really kind of what a lot of organizations need more now than ever.
Yes.
And so we encourage folks that are listening in to go check out MauiChamber.com, to go to uschamberfoundation.org, where we have a list of all of the organizations, including the Maui Chamber, including the Hawaii Chamber, that have funds that are set up to help businesses get back on their feet. So please encourage anybody that's listening in to go ahead and check out those two critical resources. The cash donations, I think, are going to be the number one priority at this time. And thanks again for all that you do, Pam and Amber and the Maui Chamber. As always, but especially during these very trying times, we appreciate all that you're doing for the business community there.
Thank you, Jennings, and thank you for all you do for us year-round, every year, in and out. We truly appreciate you, and you have always come to the forefront to check in on us and see how we're faring and to ask what else you can do, and that means the world to us. So we truly appreciate you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pam.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Blessings and aloha.
Thank you. Aloha.
We're going to take a quick break to hear from our sponsors, Mokulele Airlines.
Mokulele Airlines operates the largest commuter airline hub in the country, right here in Kahului. Fly Mokulele from Kahului to Molokai, Lanai, Hana, Waimea, Kona, and now Hilo. Mokulele also operates the only flights between Kapalua and Honolulu. There is never a middle seat on Mokulele, and every seat has a window and aisle. Visit mokuleleairlines.com and take your next flight from the newly renovated Mokulele Terminal.
Welcome back to Business Matters. I'm going to give Wayne a call here right now, Pam, and then we'll be right back with you.
Great. Fantastic. Thank you so much. Well, while Gary's getting Wayne on the phone, I just want to say that Wayne is with the Small Business Development Center. He is a recovering technologist with over 30 years in information technology experience, including several senior management positions during the heyday of the dot-com era. He currently specializes utilizes his entrepreneurial experience in helping businesses in Maui County, advising them, putting together training opportunities as the Maui Center Director for the Hawaii Small Business Development Center. His expertise in small business commerce and technology represents a compelling offering to assist our small businesses struggling to keep up in this ever-changing environment. They also have other excellent assistance that they're going to share, but they are under contract. The Small Business Administration works with the Small Business Development Centers systems to help get established groups like FEMA and SBA get their boots on the ground, help them get set up here so that we can leverage out the network and recover as quickly as possible from both a community and business standpoint. And Wayne has been on the front lines helping to secure space so these two organizations could come on into our community, and they are now set up. So I'm going to ask him to share a little bit about that. Wayne, are you on?
I am.
Aloha.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. How are you?
I'm great.
I am so glad to have you on. You have been really working very hard to help FEMA and the SBA get set up here. Can you share with everybody a little bit about what that was like and what's available?
Sure. So we already, we being the Small Business Development Center here on Maui, already have, is known to help businesses, and it's sort of we have planned programs, but it's also a no questions too dumb to ask. So we were already positioned, so to speak, to be able to deal with the questions and everything else of the business. And so when the disaster happened, the number one question from a business perspective for people is sort of what's next, right? I've suffered damage in varying degrees, and so where is their assistance? So one of our funders for our center is the Small Business Administration. And so we reached out to the disaster department, and they basically said, yes, here's what we will be offering, because there had been an emergency declaration, and that allows both FEMA and the SBA to come in and provide assistance. And the first thing they said, while we got you on the phone, one of the ways you can really help us is to help secure some location, because application for this assistance is, it's available via the internet. It's available via phone, but when we have the actual disaster, we want to have a facility right there on Maui, so that the barrier to application is as low as possible. And so we being the Small Business Development Center, was able to get room within our building, which happens to already be owned by the state. And so it was a no-brainer to be able to convince the state to offer up space. And luckily, it already has power. It already has high-speed internet, phone lines, and everything. So it was an easy fit in. And then for FEMA, it was basically that we happened to also be connected to the University of Hawaii Maui College. And so it was, again, a no-brainer to get a facility there. So what we've been able to help stand up is the Disaster Recovery Center at University of Hawaii Maui College. It's in the Palina building, and that Disaster Recovery Center houses both FEMA, SBA, and then some of even the state agencies such as the Department of Commerce and Consumer Affairs. The post office is in there, so that people can recover documents and so on and so forth. And then down in Kihei, the SBA was able to open up their own dedicated center just for the SBA. And so in the Maui Research Technology Park, there is an SBA setup, which is the Business Recovery Center, and that contains 8 application takers, all equipped to sit down with somebody and walk them through the actual application process. So people who are not comfortable doing it online on their own, or they have a challenge, in this particular case, some people didn't have internet access, many people don't have printers anymore, and then, of course, some people don't even have computers anymore. And so trying to do a full-fledged application on your smartphone can be done, but, it's an extra degree of challenge. So that's sort of how we help set up. And then our role right now is basically being another resource to create awareness. So there are a lot of businesses that probably the largest component. So if you were in the burn scar zone, it's pretty obvious. But turns out that there are a lot of other businesses on Maui that have no physical fire damage, and they're wondering because their businesses basically are kaput. Either they don't have their workers anymore, or even worse, they are visitor sort of based. And what happens is that because we're not having any visitors recently, their businesses have gone down to zero, and so they're asking, what's available for me. And the good thing is, from an SBA perspective, they do have a disaster loan for physical damage. But what we've been able to make aware of all these other businesses is that they have a loan for economic injury. And so losing business volume and losing workers to a large degree is considered economic injury. And so there is an actual disaster loan from the SBA that you can apply for. The other thing that we like to help people understand in terms of the varying agencies and so on and so forth is that, the real first step looking for assistance is going to be going to your insurance carrier, because all of the government programs are meant to help people get back to where they were before beyond resources that they already have. And so FEMA, has grants and assistance that they can help you, right? They can help you with housing. They can help you with, personal property loss, medical, dental, a whole bunch of other things. The good news is those are all grants. However, they always need to find out what your resources are, primarily what's already been covered by insurance, because they cannot sort of double pay you for that. And then, so insurance carrier, second step is go to FEMA. You can go to the Disaster Recovery Center in UHMC. What's nice is that FEMA even has a smartphone app. And so rather than going to the website, which is doable, they actually have an app which walks you through things and makes the application a lot easier. Once you get done with FEMA, if you have business or if you are a homeowner where FEMA doesn't cover enough of your loss, then you go to the SBA, and the SBA has, again, personal property damage insurance or assistance and economic injury. So the SBA assistance are loans. They are low interest, long term. However, that means going into debt. And part of what we do at advising, so again, we let the SBA handle the actual application process, but from the advising perspective, a lot of people come back to us after application because, one, you really need to have a plan and clarity around how you're going to use that loan, because, again, you really need to spend it not just to get by, but to actually rebuild and position yourself to be able to make income again so that you can pay the loan out. The other thing that we kind of have to have a hard question about is maybe you actually weren't really doing that good before the this, and this may be a sign that maybe you need to figure out how to pivot your company, how to do business better, and in some cases, just the hard decision that maybe you don't want to restore your business because you're not going to be able to make enough investment that it's going to pay back. So that's kind of what has been happening for us locally. And the one thing that I think the biggest thing for businesses out there is that big question of, I didn't suffer any physical damage. Is there an assistance for me? And the SBA's economic injury disaster loan is the product for you.
I'm glad you brought that up because, and I'm sure you're hearing many stories. So there's some that I'm hearing that, of course, are recognizing that it may help them, and of course it absolutely does. And one of the cases, as you brought up, is people who are directly impacted by what's happening with the visitor industry. So with the loss of visitors and the turn down in the industry right now, we're seeing companies, for example, who do tours to Hana. So Hana's still open, and they were doing tours to help alleviate cars on the road and had built their business even during COVID. But they're looking at having to lay off 22 employees because that with this now drop off of what we're seeing, a landslide of visitors dropping off and not coming to Maui or moving their reservations to other areas. It's been a huge challenge. But we had a conversation the other day with somebody who was in the construction industry, and they were going to do some significant projects out on the west side, but those now won't be happening. So that also would qualify. So we want people to, if it's related to this disaster, you can, as Wayne said, look at this from the standpoint of that loss to your business. And, of course, you have to quantify it. But this is what the EIDL loans are for. And I think, I'm sure you've got amazing stories, too, or unique stories of helping people understand, no, you probably do qualify.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, is, what's a little bit different for one particular sector, which is the vacation rentals. During COVID, while there was an economic injury disaster loan product, EIDL product, they did not cover vacation rentals because for whatever reason at that time during COVID, that was considered an investment and not considered a business. And so that is different this time around for this particular disaster. So we have gotten clarity on that. So people who had all of their reservations, turned down, and because there's nobody else coming, for the first time, the EIDL for this particular disaster does allow for vacation rentals to come in and be considered a business.
That's very important, because, and I'm glad to hear that is changed and available to them. We're hearing from a lot of people who, and I know that you're working really hard to help people move forward with their planning. And planning is so important right now. Even if it's your exit plan or it's your continuity plan, you need a plan one way or the other as you're looking at how to move forward through this. But we're hearing so many people say, my income, I took an EIDL loan during COVID. I was just starting to get my income to recover, and now I have no idea when this is going to come back, and I don't know about the debt, if I can do another EIDL loan right now. Are you hearing that? And I know if you are, I know what you're doing. You're working to consult with them and getting it planning, but we're hearing that in big numbers.
We are hearing that, and our conversations with SBA is that so for people with COVID EIDL loans, is there some sort of relief or something that they can do? Because again, they're not going to be able to make the payments because of this new disaster that's come up. So there's a couple things. So number one, they cannot consolidate and refinance the COVID idle loans. So sort of get that out of your mind.
Yeah.
And it's because these funds per disaster and per incident are legislatively put out there, and so they cannot commingle the different funds and so on and so forth. So that's why they have to stand alone, and you can't use one to relieve the other. The one concession that they have made, though, is that you are able to request. So you would go back and call your COVID EIDL customer service line and basically explain that you are now in another situation, and they are able to offer you another year of deferred payments. So at least for a year, you won't have to make EIDL payments. The bad news about that, or the thing to watch out for that, is that the COVID EIDL, when you have deferments, interest still accumulates. And so even though you're moving the payment to the back, so to speak, in the deferment, you will notice that your interest balance still goes up. Interestingly, for the economic injury disaster loan, for the disaster, for this particular disaster, when you apply for that, and if you get it, there is an automatic 12-month payment deferral. So when you are successful in getting the disaster EIDL, your first payment is deferred for 12 months, and they are not going to charge interest until you make your first payment.
Yeah.
So,
hey, Pam, we're down to 1 minute.
Oh, awesome. Well, Wayne, thank you so much for sharing this news. We really appreciate having you on. I'd love to have you on again soon because this is changing rapidly, so if we could keep doing updates to keep everybody current. But thank you for all the tremendous work you're doing to help our community. And I just want to say blessings and aloha to you and to all who've joined us this morning. Thank you for tuning in. If you have questions or need help, please reach out, MauiChamber.com or 808-244-0081. Thank you so much for joining us on Business Matters. We wish you blessings and aloha and hope to see you again next Tuesday. Ahui ho.